Neurodiversity is not just the latest buzzword, it is a recognition increasingly that there is a whole spectrum of difference in the way the human brain operates and what we feel and what we experience the world to be. In this video, I'm going to give you some practical tips on how we can empower, support our neurodivergent colleagues to thrive in the work environment. Firstly, just a quick introduction to me. My name is Jenefer. I'm the founder of Silk Helix. We are a neurodiversity specialist, a HR consultancy, and that comes from my own personal lived experience as a neurodivergent person, a neurodivergent parent to a neurodivergent child, which led me to a whole lot of study to dive into this topic further and look at how we can create work environments that really do enable people to thrive. And the reality is, there's an estimates of anything up to about 20% of the population being neurodivergent, and that means we are going to have people in our work teams who are neurodivergent, and there are some industries where they're going to see a much higher prevalence than others because they tend to be attractive or the right environment for certain people. And of course, even within neurodivergence, there's a whole spectrum of conditions and experiences, and very rare to just have one condition. Most people have a combination of diagnoses, or would have if we actually had the appropriate resources to be able to diagnose people. And therefore, we're dealing with a spectrum, and it is a spectrum. It's the whole diverse range, and all of the tips and advice I'm going to give in this video today will help you to empower not just your neurodivergent team members, but everybody in your workforce. So let's dive in. Firstly, what do we mean by neurodiversity? It's really important that we use the terms correctly and that we understand what we're talking about. So neurodiversity is the full range of human spectrum. That's all of us. Diversity is everything, every one of us. Neurodiverse or neurodivergent people are those with a neurodivergent condition which may or may not be formally diagnosed. I'm not going to go into the details of the challenge of diagnosis. There's from a range of places. So we've got the challenge of diagnosis simply on, do people have the resources to be diagnosed? We know that the NHS is not particularly able to support diagnosis at the moment. There's very long waiting lists, but then there's also lots of questions and queries and challenges over the diagnostic process, the DSM, and it's the document that we diagnose from, and a whole load more research to be done there. So diagnosis isn't really important. What's important is that we recognise that there is difference. So because I find something simple does not mean the next person's going to find something simple. And it means that we need to focus on the strengths and challenges of every individual. And when we do that, we create a team that can absolutely thrive together. Also mentioning language, there are lots of people that challenge words like disorder coming into the names of these conditions. We've also got people suggesting things are superpowers. The reality is that there are some real strengths that come with the neurodivergent conditions. So autism, ADHD, dyslexia, the whole spectrum of conditions come with strengths. Strengths like problem solving, creativity, for some people really good attention to detail, but they also come with struggles. There would not be a diagnostic situation, there would not be challenges if we didn't have struggles that come with it. And part of those struggles are the design of society, which is based very much around the neurotypical, the majority experience of the world. But those struggles can include things like time management, sensory overload, and the challenges of being in rigid environments where there's no flexibility. So when we understand that those challenges, which can often be hidden, and often these are the things that to others come really naturally, really easily, sensory overload for some people is just not something they experience, and therefore it can be really challenging to think about how that experience can be to other people. And we have to talk about it in order for everybody to understand that these are challenges that some people experience. So when we look at, well, okay, we've got strengths and we've got challenges, let's harness those strengths so that we can all thrive. Let's have an environment that helps to minimize the challenges. And increasingly, we are in a situation where technology and things can help to overcome many of these challenges. but some of it is also just about awareness. So I've mentioned a few things there, but let's look really practically at what we can do to create inclusive work environments. First off, flexibility in work arrangements. Now, when we talk about flexibility, the kind of go-to currently is, that means work from home, allowing people to either work in the office, work from home, have that flexibility. The reality is that's fine for office-based environments, but it's not going to be the case necessarily in all environments. So flexibility might include things like shift patterns. It might include things like increased breaks. It might include things like allowing noise cancelling headphones to be worn in a work environment. Flexibility means reflecting on our way we think that work should be done and being open to there being other ways. And as long as those other ways are safe, so for example, noise cancelling headphones on a building site could create a safety risk. We have to take those things into account, and it's balancing all the time. Is it reasonable? Is it appropriate to make this adjustment? Is there another way that we can achieve the same adjustment or the same environment? And of course as well, bear in mind that different people experience things differently. So sensory overload, for example, is going to be experienced in a range of ways by different people. So knowing sort of how one person deals with this or one person's experience is just one person's experience. So talking to people is another really key way that we have inclusivity. Making sure that we are tailoring the support that we are providing people. And if people are struggling to work out for themselves what that tailored support looks like, what they need, then a workplace needs assessment is an absolutely ideal way of supporting people. And that's something that we can do. If you want to talk to me about that, there's details in the description below. It's also really important that we don't just focus on the negatives, the challenges, we focus on the strengths. As employers, that's where we can really benefit from this. Like, this is good for business, because there are really key strengths that come with all of the neurodivergent conditions. It's known that there are strengths that come with it. And if we can harness those strengths and have people in the right environment for them, provide them with the right support for them, we can absolutely thrive as a business, as a team, and gain from those. Again, some of the traditional rigid ways of thinking about work have often been, if one person in the team has got to do this, everyone in the team has got to do this. This is how we make it fair. And we have the job exactly matching across the team. And I would question whether that really is the best way of organising work, or whether we can match things to people's strengths and find the right people for the right tasks. Often there's assumptions that, nobody will ever want to do that type of task or that type of activity or that type of work. And the reality is there will be somebody. It may be niche, it may be small, you may have to work to find your somebody, but there will be somebody who can do that. And I think when we adjust the way that we look at things, that's then going to adjust the way we do our recruitment, for example, because we can focus then on targeting the people that we really want, that really are going to thrive to do that particular thing in that particular environment. And then part of the support thing that we need to make sure of is that we are looking after the health and well-being of our neurodivergent colleagues, and actually of everybody. This will benefit everybody. Awareness training is absolutely crucial to that. It can be really difficult to understand the experience of somebody if that's not your experience of the world. Awareness training can really help, and it takes away the expectation on the individual to make their colleagues and their managers aware themselves. It takes away their duty to kind of do the awareness training by bringing somebody in who can do awareness training, talk to everybody in the environment about neurodiversity. We're not talking about this individual, we're talking about neurodiversity. You can do specialist ones on particular conditions. So let's say you've got somebody with ADHD in the team, ADHD awareness training will be absolutely beneficial for everybody to understand how we can create an environment where our colleagues can thrive. We also need to make sure that we're giving the right support to people. So employee assistant programs often come in as a support tool. Do be aware though that there are challenges even with those with regards to neurodiversity, and if the person on the other end is not trained in neurodiversity, doesn't understand it, then wrong advice can be given, because some of the tools and techniques that we would give, say, typical person might not be right for somebody with autism or ADHD, for example, or dyslexia. Equally, something that we suggest to someone with autism might not be right for somebody with ADHD. And then let's remember that there's a lot of crossover between these conditions, and many people have multiple conditions. So what works for one person might not work for someone else. So we do need to make sure that the people that are giving the supports also have the relevant training, and that you're asking your EAP providers about that to make sure that they have the skills to actually provide the support that you're paying them to provide. And just to wrap up then, let's not forget that creating an inclusive environment is good for business. It's estimated that about 20% of people have a neurodivergent condition. That means 20% of a potential workforce. So when you're recruiting, you expand your pool. It means you've got a safe environment if we are open, if people can bring their whole selves to work. Therefore, you increase productivity, you increase retention. You've also got the range of strengths that people bring. We all have a range of challenges, but there's also that range of strengths which can be really beneficial to your business. Some of this creative ideas, problem solving, for example, the whole let's think outside the box. Actually, for many neurodivergent people, there is no box. It just does not work like that. There is thinking outside the box is the norm. So having that within your team is absolutely good for business. Why would you not do that? And why would you not help people to thrive by providing things like awareness training, supporting people with workplace needs assessments, and just creating that inclusive environment that makes you stop and think and say, we might have always done it like this, but is it the right way to do it in future? Details on how you can work with me on all of these things are available in the description below. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, hit the like on this video. It all helps us to share these videos, get more reach, and helps our channel to grow. And all that leaves me to say is I shall see you in the next video.